And there's a lot of thinly veiled and sometimes not thinly veiled anti-Semitism in Western societies that really distresses me. What's driven that great big shift, do you think? Because it is a big shift.
I think it is media, and I think the situation in Israel right now is a very delicate subject. I can see it from another perspective. They did wipe out, 40,000 civilians? Is that correct?
In Gaza?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're Hamas's numbers, and they don't distinguish between military and civilians.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that immediately to me raises the question as to who's responsible for that. Is it Hamas? Is it not Hamas? If Hamas had not done what they'd done on October the 2nd, and if they'd not taken hostages and not embedded themselves in civilian facilities like schools and hospitals, who's responsible?
Well, let me ask you this. If a active shooter runs into a school and is killing teachers and kids, and then the police come in and just kill everybody, is it the school's fault for letting that person in? I mean, those people were innocent. A lot of those people were innocent. And yeah, I mean, I've spent 14 years in and out of war, and I do understand there is definitely a war factor where innocent casualties will die. And I'm not saying I'm pro-Israel. I'm not saying I'm anti-Israel. I think Israel's been extremely effective, and way more effective than America was in finding and killing leaders of Hamas. And I mean, the pager thing was incredible. And the speed at which they've been able to. I mean, I don't even know how many leaders that they have eliminated in just a little over 1 year. And that is extremely impressive. And I think that the entire world could take notes from how they did that. I
was interested in your view on that professionally.
Yeah, I think that it was extremely effective. I think that they have some explaining to do for how many civilian casualties there were.
Well, you could say the Allies maybe have some explaining to do, because a lot of Germans were killed in their cities and so forth. But it was surely right to get rid of the Nazis. It's surely right, and in everyone's interests, including yours and mine and our countries,
absolutely,
to see places like Iran and its proxies degraded.
It's.
I don't want to make light of those lives lost. Any life lost is a tragedy. I agree with that. The German lives lost, the Japanese lives lost, when those regimes began the most appalling attacks on humanity.
Mm-hmm.
In the Second World War, they were still a tragedy. But I don't know that anybody would say it was wrong to insist on unconditional surrender by the Nazis after what they did. Let's not forget, to the Jews in particular.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
War is, I mean, as you've said it, it's a horrible, horrible, evil thing.
It is. It is.
And it's always terrible. But it worries me that we're ambivalent about a fellow democracy, whatever else it is. It's a tiny little place of just 10 million people, one of the smallest sort of footprints of any of the country in the Middle East. Many of the other Middle Eastern countries actually, by their silence, seem to be saying, well, we actually think it might be a good thing if Israel pulled Iran down, because Iran's behind all of this.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
President Trump went further. He said, take out those nuclear facilities in Iran and then clean up the mess later. It's a pretty strong thing to say, but I suppose he's reflecting that concern that Iran's very close to having a nuclear weapon, and that would be horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Every other country then would say, well, we'll have to build nuclear weapons. Egypt will. Saudi Arabia will. Heaven only knows who else will. This is a very dangerous time.
Absolutely it is. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm pro or anti. I think they've been extremely effective. All I was trying to point out was there is always another perspective that needs to be, explored. and I can at least understand, that perspective.
It is, as you say, it's very difficult. I'm troubled by, it has exposed, I don't think you can doubt this, a very ugly streak of anti-Semitism in most Western countries. Certainly has in ours.
Absolutely, it's everywhere here.
And you touched on BLM riots. They were supposedly against racism, but we now actually find a lot of the very people who were driving that agenda turn out to have locked themselves into the most ancient of all racist tropes, which is anti-Semitism. It's you wonder how we've got to this point.
We got to this point because people are not educating themselves the proper way, and they are being led around by the nose by media.